All right, so tonight I want to talk about a particular topic. We're going to speak about the Matrix. I feel really compelled to talk about the Matrix. Everyone is talking about it, it's on every social media, everybody's mouth. What is the Matrix and why I believe people have it backwards? So, the Matrix is, of course, derived from the movie The Matrix, where everyone is sort of believing into a system that is apparent to a reason they cannot free themselves from it. It is controlled by so-called elite people or some form of entity in the movie, which is Agent Smith, where Agent Smith takes the form of can take the form of anybody or replace the avatar of anybody present into the system. And Neo is that character who is meant to free people from the Matrix. What I've often observed is people label the Matrix in real life, they make a transposition of the from the movie to real life, is that they see the Matrix as something inherent or something outside of themselves. In a way, they believe that the Matrix has you captive, you cannot think freely. It is being controlled by elite people who wants to keep you trapped into the system. What we have fundamentally forgotten about is the Matrix is simply a reflection of our own consciousness. You're not separate from it, it exists for a reason. You've been living in it before your realization that you were living in the Matrix. But we have the responsibility and the capability to transmute it, to change it, not only to deconstruct and change our beliefs and our approach about it, but to also not forget that the Matrix is a reflection of you. So if in your reality you are seeing the Matrix system, what does the system tells about your own beliefs and what you believe in? People get lost in all sort of things. You need to escape it. We were not sent here on earth at this greatest time to escape the Matrix, but you were meant to transform it from the inside out. You see many systems collapsing, you see absolute atrocities here and there across the world, but collectively we are just going through a purging period where we see things for as they are, and all of the so-called people who were in control, who in a sense have no idea of what they are doing or what the heck is going on even, they just operate from a place, or they live from a place or a state of being is coming from fear. And as a result, they just cast out all this fear across the world in a way because they are afraid to lose the control that they never had. So if you're going through a transformative journey when you felt like all your life has fallen apart, has been completely ruined, you might have been forced to move, go out of a live, or being forced out of a relationship, lost a job, forced to relocate, whatever that might be, know that this necessary transformation is happening for a reason. Because otherwise, without those radical changes in your life, you wouldn't even have taken the time to reconsider and say to yourself and ask yourself this question: what do I want to do? Where should I go next? Who do I want to become? What can I build for myself in this life now that I've lost this safety net or this identity to which you identified yourself with behind the status or the job, and you are now forced to realize and look a little bit deeper into where you want to go. So use this difficult period of your life as a great catalyst for change. Things are always changing, they never stay the same. If we cling to one particular version of ourselves, we become depressed or anxious. You see, depression is because it is a state of being where your mind lives through time. And as you already know, time is an illusion, it doesn't exist. There's only the now. You cannot go back forcefully and walk up and go to the past. You always put mental pictures and images going into the past, making you repeating certain thoughts, certain habits, certain emotions, which in return robs you from the happiness of the present moment. And you become anxious when you become fearful of the future that may eventually never come. You always project where things may go right or may go wrong. You need to anticipate, which once again robs you from being in the present moment. The problem with all this is your mind is constantly running and babbling around, trying to predict things and find solution to the many problems that there is in this density, to the many problems that it creates. The thing is, the mind or the place where you are looking for solution cannot be understood completely and fully by the mind. It cannot be found by the mind. You need to take a bigger perspective, to look from your higher self, to see how to bring a solution to your own problem. So to come back to the idea of the matrix, is if you still look at it from the inside and you feel the need that you need to escape it, you are still living in it. You need to understand you are way more beyond, we are collectively beyond the system that we have built for ourselves. We are not meant simply to survive and repeat the same patterns that our parents have been living, our ancestors have been living into. We are coming truly into a new age of state of being. All systems of control, I believe, will completely collapse once the collective will come to this realization. You do not need for religion, you do not need a middleman to access God. It is already within you. Every single religion tells you about it, but no one can somehow agree and come to this conclusion or see the patterns between all the religion, all the saying, whether it is the spiritual new age, whether it is Christianity, whether it is Islam, they all point to the same truth. They all point into the same direction. So if you truly come to the experience, the realization of God, that God is everything, including you, and you have the power to create a conscious life that is abundant and beneficial to everyone, all those systems and limiting beliefs will collapse inevitably because people realize it is us, it's already here. So there's no need to create legends and interpretations of something that is here. The problem is that what I see in this consciousness is it is being consumed by fear. It still lives in a primal state of being where effectively when humanity has been created early on, it needed those systems to survive. Life was very difficult. Food was not as abundant and saturated in all the garbage that it is today. It is not as saturated in sugars, in fat, and we had little knowledge about the environment around us. We had a few guidelines coming from the higher mind. There's more for this topic later in another video. This is not the subject here. But we needed to understand and to explore our bodies, our environment, and to really live a little bit longer as much as possible for the species as a collective to survive. So there was a place truly for the mind and the human mind, the way it works and it functions, that is totally not suitable for it now in this crazy society that we have built. We destroy our planet, we overconsume, we numb ourselves, we avoid confronting our shadows, our projection, and we fail to recognize that the thoughts and the little voice that you hear in your head are not you. This is what the Bible teaches. This is what Islam teaches. It really teaches you to just become an observer and not attach yourself to anything, including the thoughts. And this is something that we love to do. We love to torture ourselves, building all sorts of scenarios because we have a thought that comes up. Let's say, for example, you could be walking down the street. Everything is joyful, happy. It may be raining. It might be sunny outside. Doesn't matter. All of a sudden, you have a thought that arises. For example, you say, oh, I don't like the color of this car, for example, and you begin to make all sort of scenarios and all sort of stories within your mind from that little observation. Fundamentally, there is no meaning. It's just things are just happening. You become so critical towards yourself and your environment that you begin to create hell for yourself. And we fail to realize this fact and to communicate in a more open and positive way and say things that matter truly to ourselves. Being in a state where we say exactly what we need to see, what we need to hear in the moment. We become aggressive, overly aggressive. Like emotions that are buried deep within us begin to arise and we attach to the feeling and you want to be triggered. You want to be annoyed. You want to be pissed off by that person who said something to you, or the way that person looks, or the way that person dresses. For what reason, truly? If in that moment you choose, because it is a choice, you choose to be angry, you choose to be in a low vibrational state, what does it bring you, really? What prevents you instead from being more positive? And the mind, I've seen this concept that I really like. It is called from a book called Dianetics, and it frames the mind in two ways. So you can see maybe the parallel with, the reptilian brain or the neocortex, the left hemisphere, the right hemisphere, when we know and understand, science understands that the left hemisphere of the brain is more rational, logical, analytical, and the right hemisphere of the brain is more creative, more innovative, more compassionate. And so from the book Dianetics, they were speaking about the reactive mind and the analytical mind, where the reactive mind was very reactive, per se, and the analytical mind would have more capabilities to self-reflect and reflect upon life experiences. But it does reflect in a way that is non-linear, versus the reactive mind tries to see things from with a linear perspective, trying to put events through a certain frame. More often than not, this certain frame, this certain narrative is coming from a survival place. So anything that happens to the reactive mind is being seen as a threat that needs to be either resolved or being pushed away, more often than not violently, to protect the host. This part of the reactive mind no longer serves us as a collective because we can create life from a higher perspective, from a higher state of being. I really like this. I just lost my thought. I'm gonna come back. So I really like this realization I come into, and I happened to stumble upon during a meditation session where now I would see the thoughts being picked up into my brain, translating into my brain as a commenter of whatever I put my focus on, or as a speaker that is always there. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you are grocery shopping, at your favorite supermarket. You enter in it, and in those supermarkets, there's always music playing in the background, some sort of sounds, right? Could be someone making an announcement on a speaker, or just your favorite radio station, local radio station playing at that place. When you are focused in the present moment, you're looking for your groceries for the week. When you are focused looking for the item that you want, you don't pay attention to the speaker, but the speaker is still playing. And all of a sudden, let's say there's an announcement or there's your favorite music that plays on, and it catches your attention, and now you're paying full attention to the speakers and the music until you go on your whereabouts. This is the same thing you can do with your thoughts. You don't need to focus on them all the time. And the Bible preaches about this. You get rid of the thoughts you do not like by starving them of attention. There's this saying often in the spiritual new age, where attention goes, energy flows. So whatever you put your focus on, it grows inevitably. If you take care of a pet, an animal, a plant, you need to give focus, attention, and love, and of course nutrient for that thing to grow. But you need to be paying attention first. Otherwise, that pet may pass away or that plant may die. So if you take your attention away from it, it leaves this reality. It cannot be sustained by you. You do the same with your thoughts. And we have become so unconscious and detached from the simple fact that we have become addicted to react. You see often in big cities, this is often a problem. In cities like in Philadelphia, New York, but it could be any city in the Western world especially, at least from my observation. You can see many people, more often than not, drug addicts, homeless people, or people with mental problems, being stuck into that reactive mind. In a way, if you observe, some people may observe them, talking to themselves, being into their heads. This is a great consciousness that is reacting to every thought that passes through their heads, and they don't make really a difference between physical reality, what's real, what's out there, and what's in their mind. And you who is in a much more fortunate position, you might say to yourself, or you might judge that person thinking, oh, that person is crazy, that person is this or that. You put all sort of labels. But what you do not notice is you are doing the same thing, the exact same thing as that person is doing. It's just that you are functional. You can have a job, you can take care of your family and your belongings, but what you did in that incident is doing the exact same thing that that person is doing, reacting to the thoughts, reacting to the mind, the ego, who makes all sort of judgment. This is no different. So once you understand that all the thoughts that rise up when people are making all sort of interaction with you, discussions, something that sparked something in you, someone might have said something and it triggers a reaction, you have the power to not let it consume you, not power over you. You can acknowledge it, you can witness it, but then the response that you're going to produce is your entire responsibility. No one has the power to rob you from anything unless you allow it. That's the harshest truth. And I see often in religion or people who believe that they are powerless, that lives happen to them. They cannot get to that, they cannot be that person, they cannot get that job, they cannot get that life situation, whatever they want, whatever they desire, because that person is doing some dark magic on them, because that person is the root cause of their problem, because that person is telling them that they can't. What that person may be saying in this moment is not your responsibility to accept it. If you choose to accept it, that's your responsibility. But you can simply say subconsciously, no, I refuse to believe that. I refuse to accept that. I will simply do what I feel drawn to do and accept the consequences fully, of course. But you are free to do what you want to do. No one is holding you back. The only case perhaps where people will be holding you back, and it is very unfortunate that people experience that, but they experience that amount of suffering and pain for a reason, is people who are being kept captive. Could be by an overly protective or abusing parent, partner. We've seen many instances. For example, Britney Spears comes to mind, where she's been, sequestrated by her father. Actually, in that situation, I can of course understand it is pretty difficult to get out of. But other than that, they are just words. You are free to not react and instead ground yourself, be present, so you can craft and respond in the best way possible that would both serve you, or that would both also serve the person that is in front of you in that specific situation. You are free to react if you feel the need to put some distance or some boundaries in that moment. That person, you can communicate it clearly so there are no underlying expectations, which will lead me to another subject, and then I'm going to wrap up for this video, is the tendency for highly empathetic, for highly people who have a lot of empathy, basically. Excuse my English, not very good there. We tend to have no boundaries, so we get overstepped and stomped upon by a lot of people, because you have a type of people who will just take, not because they want to control you, but because they don't feel resistance. So they just assume that you are okay with everything that they do. And then you have also people on the other end of the spectrum who are very possessive, so narcissistic behavior, and they will consume you entirely up until you just cannot contain it anymore, and you just completely implode in your world and explode and say, okay, I want something else. This is too much suffering to bear. Those dynamics, those relationships have a specific purpose. I was in one for a long time, and it forced me to awaken. I was living in such an unconscious state about myself. I was so identified with the mind trying to survive that it was actually the catalyst for my awakening. So now I am better armed for myself to set firm boundaries and to speak my truth regardless of what people think of me, regardless of their opinions, regardless of their reactions. I just say what needs to be said in the moment in the most aligned and authentic way. When you truly do this, this is how you reprogram. This is how you change the world. But do not be led astray. Do not do it from a place of narcissism or control or darkness. Do not cast out and pollute more of the world. You know that you have experienced God. You know that we create our own reality. And if we want to see the world change according to your vision, you need to cast out into the world a certain frequency, so by your words, given on your perspective and the information that you receive. Otherwise, the world is going to play out the same stories. Nothing is going to change the way you want it, because you are yourself not casting out the right frequency into the world. So this is where you come back to the journey of the self. You may be encountering many challenges and changes into your life. And as you dig deeper into understanding yourself and being your own self, your old shadows and patterns and behaviors that no longer serve you, that were attached to your previous identity, may resurface. They resurface for a reason. They resurface to be addressed and to be accepted. That was part of you, to be forgiven, to be released. You can then move forward and create the life that you truly want. And you do not seek to escape the matrix. You do not seek to just say love and light. You do not seek to just have toxic positivity, because the underlying issues that you've been burying in your subconscious mind for so long and things you kept under the surface are finally being addressed and looked upon by you giving them attention. So now you know how to better navigate into physical reality and get exactly what you want. So that's it for this video. I encourage you to practice mindfulness at all times. Doing meditation part of the day is really good. Keep going at it, keep progressing. But know that you can maintain that state of stillness, of presence throughout the day, in any moment, any activity that you do. And this is how you will be able to see truly your manifestations and the matrix beginning to transform. You have so much to offer to the world. You have so much wisdom to share. You matter. So on that note, I will wish you a very happy and pleasant day. And we will see you in the next video.